Good morning. Good. Need some audience participation here. Welcome, it's great to be here. It's a great time to be a seller on Amazon. It's a great time to be an advertiser on Amazon. It's also a great time to be part of generative AI. It's doing wonderful things for advertisers, wonderful things for sellers. Today I'm going to be talking about generative AI and using generative AI as your creative companion to create better customer connection and higher performing campaigns. Could you go back one slide? My name is Tor Steiner. I lead the generative AI team within Amazon Ads. I'm part of the Creative X organization. And one of our missions within Creative X is to make creative very, very easy for advertisers and for sellers. I've been at Amazon for 12 years. I've spent most of the time within the seller business. I launched Seller Fulfilled Prime. I launched the brand registry. I launched Product Opportunity Explorer. And the fun fact is I've been a seller on Amazon for 6 years. I've gone through the same trials and tribulations and successes that sellers have. And I can tell you I'm very, very passionate about the success of sellers on Amazon. Today's a 300-level discussion. We're going to get into some details, and I want to share with you how you can use our Gen AI tools to grow your business on Amazon. There's going to be a Q&A session afterwards. This could be the best part of the discussion, but you need to submit questions ahead of time. Here's a QR code. Take a picture with your camera or your Amazon Accelerate app, and then we can take a few minutes at the end to answer those questions. I'll also be out at the kiosk, and we could have some one-on-one time. In our session today, we've got a packed session that's going to be about 30 minutes long. We're going to be talking about generative AI as your creative companion. We're going to be talking about, I have some new announcements. Hopefully you got a chance this morning to catch the big announcement. I'll share a little bit about what we're doing there. I'm going to be talking about why creative matters. I think you guys all know that creative matters, but it's important to emphasize this point. I'm going to be talking about the evolution of AI-driven creative, in particular how it's now able to create better customer connection. I'm also going to share some strategies on how you can use our AI tools to grow your business on Amazon. And lastly, we're going to feature one of our partners who's been able to integrate our generative AI capabilities into their e-commerce platform. So super excited to hear from them. I have perhaps one of the coolest jobs at Amazon. I have a front row seat into all things Gen AI. It's been really extraordinary few years. I think the one thing that has most impressed me is how fast the technology is evolving. Who would have thought just 2 or 3 years ago that generative AI could create effective ad copy as well as performant ad images? And now we're starting to see video generation as well. This is why we're investing heavily within Amazon Ads. We aim to bring all of these capabilities to advertisers and sellers to make it easy for you guys to launch campaigns. This week at Accelerate, we're introducing some powerful new capabilities. Let's take a look. Awesome. It's really great to see all your hard work show up and actually start to become a usable tool for advertisers. We launched Image Generator last year and at the end of last year, and what was innovative about that is that you could simply take an ASIN, put it into the tool, and it would create ad-ready images for you within moments. This year, we're extending that, so now that instead of just doing images, you can do video as well. I don't want to steal the thunder of our product team. There's going to be a session right after this at 12:45 on the 3rd floor. They're going to dive in deeply on the video generation capabilities. This is one of the capabilities up here. It's called Live Images, and this is You could take an image and convert it into a video. The video generation capabilities are exciting. We're enabling the ability to create multi-scene videos. We also have something called video summarization, which I'm particularly excited about. The idea of video summarization, for example, is that you can take long-form video content, perhaps content from your detail page, and you can convert it into short-form, ad-ready video content. And the idea here is to make it very easy for advertisers to launch ads. Video, as we know, has been a very big blocker for advertisers for a long time. Why does creative matter? I think we all instinctively know as advertisers and sellers that creative matters, but I've done quite a bit of due diligence on this, and study after study shows that ad creative is one of the single most important levers to improve ad performance. Let me repeat that because it's really important. Study after study shows that ad creative is one of the single most important levers to improve ad performance. In other words, like creative matters quite a bit for advertisers. I'm going to emphasize this message throughout this discussion. I'm going to do a short round of trivia. Hopefully you guys can yell at the answers. So the first question is, what challenges did businesses name as the top blockers at launching successful campaigns? Is it A, budget and time, B, choosing a creative format, C, ad creative building, or D, all of the above? All right. This was a gimme question. I think everybody should have gotten this one right. But there's one thing, so we all know that these are big creative blockers for advertisers. But the great thing about Gen AI is it helps with all of these dimensions. So we know that it helps with ad creative building. It cuts down on the cost and time that it'll take advertisers to launch creative on Amazon. We also make our image generation capabilities, video generation, available in all of the popular formats. And so it's very easy for advertisers to come in and be able to launch a campaign in whatever placement that they see fit. In fact, we did a study last year, and 75% of the advertisers that we surveyed cited campaign building as their top blocker collectively. That number blew my mind. When you have a large catalog, when you have thousands of products that turn over every year, you have dozens of campaigns, dozens of different ad placements, you could see how creative becomes a very big blocker for advertisers. Next question. What percentage of organizations worldwide are using generative AI within their business? This number blew my mind. A, 33%, B, 50%, C, 65%, and D, 80%. All right, I hear 80. The answer is 65, but probably it's changed over the last few months and probably closer to 80 at this point. What blew my mind, so this number is from McKinsey, and it's actually doubled year over year. It was 33% a year ago, and you could see the adoption has absolutely taken off. And usually when you get that type of adoption, you can see that people are really benefiting from it. The other thing that McKinsey said is that the top use for Gen AI is marketing, advertising, and sales, which is a big reason why we're investing today. And the final question, what performance benefits have advertisers seen with Amazon Ads AI-generated images? A, 20% increase in campaign submissions. B, 4% increase in sales. Or C, all of the above. All right. You guys got 100%. The answer here is C, all of the above. But there's a bit of a flywheel here that's important. So if you make it easier to launch creative, it's easier for advertisers to experiment, to create more target audience-specific creatives that increase experimentation. Better targeting allows them to generate better overall performance of their ad campaigns. That's a really important takeaway from today's discussion. Okay, so the next slides, I'm going to talk a little bit about the evolution of Gen AI over the last several years, in particular how it's become a tool that advertisers can use to create better customer connection. In 2022, we launched AI-generated headline recommendations, and we did this so that advertisers can better clear moderation, because that was a big pain point for them. But one of the things that we realized through that process was that in addition to helping out with moderation, click-through rates actually went up on these ad campaigns as well. And so that was a big aha moment for us because we realized that the AI capabilities had reached a state, plus internal know-how within the Amazon Ads organization. When you combine those two things together, you can get actual better performance overall. This motivated us. Last year, we launched Image Generator. I talked a little bit about that earlier. In the first half of the year, we've been rolling out a lot of capabilities on Image Generator. We've expanded it worldwide. It now supports all of the major aspect ratios. We have a bunch of new capabilities that we're launching, including image editing. We have a beta API access to it as well. Now at this conference, we're launching video generation, and I would expect that this line continues, and we're going to see great evolution on these capabilities going forward. Now, I lead a science team, and I spent a great deal of time of trying to figure out how to make creative performant. And our goal is to be able to generate high quality, high performing creative. I literally look at thousands of images every week. And I did a deep dive earlier this summer, and these are my own personal observations. And I'm going to take you through them, and some of this and basically show you the capabilities of the AI models and how they've improved. I also have a personal set of prompts that I use to judge the quality of an underlying model. It's a bit of a litmus test to tell whether a model does a good job or not. In this example on the screen, you have a baseball, and you can see the image from early last year versus this year. And the reason I do this is because the laces on baseballs a lot of times get messed up by an AI model. And you can see year over year that the improvement in the quality of the models has radically improved. The other thing that you'll notice is that the richness of character, the texture has gotten a lot better. In fact, it's just a lot more prompt faithful than it was a year ago. The next prompt that I do is something to kind of test whether the image model has the ability to render a novel concept. In this case, it's a lemon that looks like a basketball. And the reason I do this is because the models have never seen a lemon that looks like a basketball. And if they can produce that, that shows that they're able to produce a novel concept. And while I don't expect many advertisers to use lemons that look like basketballs in their ad campaigns, you can, every advertiser knows that creative concepts are going to be very important to their ad campaigns. So you can see some massive improvement. Obviously, this applies to a lot of different use cases. Earlier today, I was looking at some images of raspberries flying around a vitamin supplement bottle, and all of that was AI generated. The next image, or next prompt rather, that I tend to execute a lot is something like this, which is 3 oranges on a railing with the sun setting in the background. And I do this for several reasons. One is that a lot of times models struggle with parallel lines. In this case, you could see the railing here. I look at the sunset, I look at the lighting around the object, I look at the texture on the items. And it's mind-blowing to me how much this has evolved over the last year. Like the image on the right is actually usable in an ad campaign today. And I'm not a designer, like this stuff is like pretty easy, and I generated all this stuff myself. We're gonna see a similar evolution play out over the next 18 months on video generation as well. And so what we think is not possible today is gonna blow our mind in a year and a half. Now I want to talk a little bit about creative performance, in particularly how you could use Gen AI to improve campaign performance. I did a deep dive earlier this summer. I took about 1,000 randomly selected sponsor brands campaign, and I was trying to answer the question as to what was different about the high-performing campaigns versus the low-performing campaigns. And if you look at this, I just graphed out click-through rate just as one proxy for ad performance. And you can see, as you graph out all the campaigns, is that the last 5 to 10% of campaigns are perform radically better than everything else. And the thing that I try to answer was like, what about those creatives, what about those campaigns was different than everything else? So over the next few slides, I'm gonna share 4 lessons. After the slides, I'll share a bunch of examples, so bear with me through this process. Okay, the first learning that I had was that the top performing campaigns were much more targeted. They were more audience specific, more use case specific. They were more seasonally fresh. And I observed something else as well, is that the advertisers that had the top performing campaigns weren't just launching a single campaign, they were launching multiple campaigns. That was like a universal trend that I saw. In fact, the underperforming campaigns were 20 to 25 times larger than the top performing campaigns. And it just shows you the shift in how an advertiser that where creative isn't a blocker, they're able to do a lot more, experiment a lot more, and achieve higher performance. Now the great question is like, how can Gen AI help? I mean, this is going to be the theme of the discussion today. With Image Generator, you can create dozens of variations within moments. Like literally, you can go in, grab your product detail page, upload your own image, and experiment to your heart's content. And within 15 minutes, you can generate dozens of different variations. These variations could be audience specific, they could be more targeted towards like a specific season, and I'm gonna share a bunch of examples with you guys. The next observation I had was around headlines. In the headlines for the top performing campaigns versus the bottom ones, they were much more focused on the why you should buy it rather than the what. And more specifically, they talked about the value proposition of the product rather than like what you were selling exactly. And it was odd how common it was for the top performing campaigns to focus on value proposition versus the bottom. And so like an example here might be, and I'm making this up on the fly, so bear with me, but you could imagine like, I used vitamin supplements earlier. Imagine you're selling vitamin B12 supplements. Most advertisers, their instinct is to say, hey, great, I'm selling vitamin B12 supplements. But customers don't necessarily know, like, you know, are these the supplements I'm looking for? So if you enhance that headline to say something like vitamin B12 supplements to improve your energy and help with your sleep. I have no idea if vitamin B12 helps with either of those two things, but you can imagine how you can, a more evocative headline is gonna produce better performance. The third observation I had was that it always needs to be crystal clear what it is that you're selling. And this is one of the most common mistakes that I saw, is that the advertisers rely too much on the product packaging to sell their product. We're just gonna keep going with the vitamin B12 supplements. It's very common for sellers and advertisers to take that image and say, here's what I'm selling. But customers don't take the time to actually figure out what the label says. And so you need to put in more imagery that connects with the audience, that explains the use case that you're targeting, explains what it is that you're selling. And again, this is where Gen AI can really help, is because as an advertiser, I've seen it's common that advertisers will reuse their same creative for years on end. And they may not be like really taking a hard look at it, but Gen AI can come in and refresh all of that imagery to be much more clear as to what it is that you're trying to advertise. The last observation I had is better aesthetics. So the top performing campaigns all had better aesthetics, more vibrant colors. There was less clutter in the imagery. There was better resolution. The imagery was much more memorable and evocative. And we know that, generally speaking, is that you know, higher aesthetic images are certainly more engaging for customers, but it also sends a message about your brand and your product. Customers are always looking for hints as to whether this is a high quality brand and a high quality product. And a lot of times the aesthetics can go a long way to send a positive message. And again, Gen AI can really help here. In fact, I have an anecdote for you. We had an advertiser called Formosa Covers. They sell golf cart covers. And they had some legacy creatives that they used. It was fine, but they were able to come in and use Image Generator within minutes to be able to freshen their creative. And what they did is they took some really exotic looking golf courses and they put their golf cart covers and their golf carts, like, you know, on these exotic golf courses. And it was a way for them to quickly upgrade their creative to be much more aesthetic. Okay, I'm gonna share some examples with you. These are all real products. They're all real products. They're fake campaigns. I didn't want to embarrass any advertisers. So I created these myself. And I'm gonna kind of give you guys some examples of the learnings that I just shared with you a moment ago. In this first example here, the ad is for brand X running shoe. You could see it's very clear what the advertiser is trying to sell. It's the running shoe. But the imagery is not very memorable. The product does not stand out particularly well. It blends in with the background. And the headline focuses on the what and not the why. Now let's see what we can do with Image Generator to improve this. Okay, so again, these are all created by me. We did this as an Image Generator. So what I did is I tried to create a more evocative image. I tried to appeal to specific use cases that the shoes were targeted at. In this case, trail running. And so I took the shoe, I angled it a little bit to kind of simulate motion, and I generated dozens of different scenes, of shoes in different weather conditions, different outdoor scenes, and those types of things. And so this is a much better ad creative. The imagery is more evocative. The feature product stands out more. The headline here, I used our headline recommendation to come up with a couple of headline ideas, and you can see overall this is a much better ad. And I'll show you some of the outtakes for the same shoe. And so in this case, I put the shoe in a redwood forest. I put a shoe on a running trail in the desert. And you can kind of get a sense for how easy it is to experiment, target different use cases and things like that. What blows my mind to this day is how good these shoes look within this setting. I would think if I was a random customer, I would think that these were real. Okay, another example for you. In this case, it's a milk carton. It's a milk jug. Again, this one doesn't meet the mark. The headline is, it focuses on the what, not the why. It's pretty clear what the advertiser is selling. The imagery is not particularly memorable, and the product does not stand out against the background. And the aesthetics are relatively poor. Let's see what we can do to kind of brush this up a little bit. Okay, so in this example, I try to work in some more evocative imagery. In this case, I used chocolate chip cookies. I put a glass of milk right next to the carton. I actually enlarged the product to make it a little stand out more, and I actually put Christmas decorations in the background just to kind of be seasonally specific. And so this imagery here, this ad is much better. It kind of touches on more. I still don't absolutely love it, but it's better aesthetics. It's going to be more targeted. It's going to be more performant. The imagery is more evocative. Let's see some of the other outtakes here for the same product. In this case, I decided I would change the theme to a fall theme. I also created a rustic theme, kind of like emulate like a cabin environment or something like that. I didn't know. I'm not an advertiser myself. Some takeaways here, and those were just some examples from Image Generator. But some of the key takeaways that I want you guys to walk away with. First of all is that these AI tools allow you to experiment more. It allows you to experiment without expense in particular, and that's a really important thing for an advertiser. The second thing is that you can create more audience-centric creatives. You can create more use case-specific creatives. That is a very key part of these capabilities. It'll improve your overall ad performance. Next, it'll be able to improve the prominence of your product. You can make it stand out. You can enlarge the product. You can feature it front and center. And lastly is that you can create visually stunning ads. And I think really my examples there are just functional. You can create gorgeous, amazing ads using our tools. So next, I want you guys to hear from one of our partners, Trellis. Trellis is a seller e-commerce platform, and they've taken advantage of our Image Generator capabilities. They've integrated via an API, and they've introduced those to their sellers and advertisers using their product.
We use Amazon Ads to help selling partners scale their business through automated AI-driven campaigns and planning. Image Generator by Amazon Ads empowers advertisers to easily create seasonally relevant and captivating campaigns. And we have a new integration to make it even easier to scale. With the click of a few buttons, our Image Generator integration creates more than 200 image variations for selling partners to choose from and helps them create new campaigns right within our platform. Our clients are excited about the growth potential available with Image Generator and their ability to launch effective campaigns in minutes.